The Song of Ribhu. Chapter 1. History of the Treatise. Definition of the Self. One's own experience. Svanubhava. Obeisance to the Supreme Shiva. To that Supreme Shiva, the auspicious, the Absolute, who is unreservedly worshipped in the hearts of the five-faced Lord, Ganesha, Lord of Shiva's retinue, the elephant-headed Lord, the six-faced Lord, Skanda, the attacker, the gracious Mother, and their endless retinue, along with innumerable seers, gods, and other loving devotees, for attaining any result and for having bestowed upon them the fulfillment of their desires, who is undivided like the expanse of the sky, who is an ocean of compassion, and who is the space of consciousness. Let us bow. Natesha. Obeisance to Natesha, the Lord of the Dance. We ever cherish in our hearts this pure ethereal consciousness, which, in conjunction with its free Shakti, supreme power, emanates as the supreme truth in its compassion for the welfare of its devotees, and which is in a constant state of joyous dance that enables all to realize the wonder of the experience of non-dual bliss. May we have the protection of that form, the left side of which is the Mother of the entire universe that exists, the right side of which is the Father of the entire universe that exists, the sound from the anklets of the feet of which is the origin of any kind of knowledge, and by the three eyes of which everything manifests itself. Obeisance to Shiva and others. Glory to the feet of the infinite Shiva, who is the Lord of the entire sentient and insentient world, and the embodiment of limitless power. Glory to the feet of the Devi, the goddess, who is the mother of the entire phenomenal world, and who is the very embodiment of eternal bliss. Glory to the feet of Vinayaka, the remover, who clears away all kinds of obstacles and is beneficent to all. Glory to the feet of Shanmukha, the six-faced one, who bestows the knowledge of Shiva on deserving devotees. History of the Treatise. The Supreme Lord, who brought forth all this world, created at the outset for the welfare of the people of the world the Vedas, which explain various forms of rites, karma, meditation, upasana, and knowledge, jnana, and brought forth besides the Smritis, recollected traditional works, Puranas, legendary lore, Itihasas, epics, and other treatises to enable proper understanding of the extreme subtlety of the Vedas. Of the Puranas and Itihasas, which describe the changeless principle of non-duality, the principal purport of the Vedas, which tower above all, an epic, rarest of the rare, by name Shiva Rahasya, secret of Shiva, mystery of Shiva, is preeminent. This epic, consisting of 12 parts, is extremely holy. In days of yore, the Supreme Shiva taught this extolled epic to the Supreme Mother. The Mother, the embodiment of grace, taught this to sixth-faced Skanda. Skanda fervently taught this to Jagishavya, filled with devotion to Shiva. Vyasa, who obtained this along with the grace of Shiva, taught this to the sage Sutta. Sage Sutta taught this subtle treatise to other great sages. Being communicated thus, this exalted work started spreading around the world. Once upon a time, the peerless Shiva communicated exclusively to Ribhu the intensely wondrous Part 6 of these 12 parts of Shiva Rahasya. The number of chapters in this part, the rarest of the rare, is 50. Since 44 of these chapters have, as a gracious gift from the Supreme Shiva, been clearly expounded by sage Ribhu to Nadaga and other sages of the world, these chapters have been called here the Exalted Ribhu Gita. I am setting out in Tamil verse this Gita, propounded by the Lord in Sanskrit, the core 44 chapters of Part 6, exclusive of the first 3 chapters and the last 3 chapters, for the appreciation of those who are eager for liberation. How wondrous is the way the God, who appears as an elephant, Ganesha, and activates everything, has activated my mind to apply myself to arranging this work, the rarest of rare, when I had been indolent, thinking that it is inappropriate for ignorant me to venture with my witless words to interpret correctly this tome in the Sanskrit tongue, the direct voice of the Supreme Lord, the crest jewel of omniscience. May men of good will encourage the endeavor set out in my words, which have no freedom of their own, but function at the command of the Supreme Shiva, the witness of all sentient and insentient entities, and that which fills the inner beings of all, and with forbearance for the faults, and forgiving all mistakes, seek only the substance of this exalted treatise. Sage Sutta told the pure elite sages in the Naimisha forest, "You who know the Vedas, Jagishavya, accompanied by the numerous loving sages and numerous taintless attendants of Shiva, again supplicating and praising with pleasure, prayed in humility to Skanda, the son of the spotless Shiva, inquiring thus." Grace incarnate, Son of the Supreme Lord, who is the embodiment of grace, succor for those who seek refuge in you, all-knowing crown jewel, Lord of 6 faces of auspicious look. By your grace I heard the 5 parts clearly. Now further tell me part 6 in your nectarine words, and save me, quenching all the scorching heat of worldly existence. Thus implored, Skanda said. Jagishavya, endowed with all desirable and superb qualities, we are pleased by your steadfast devotion. We shall expound to you, for the good of all, the ocean of knowledge of non-duality, which was previously personally taught to the spotless sage Ribhu on the peerless Mount Kailasa by the suzerain of the sentient and the insentient world, the Supreme Lord himself, for the welfare of the world. Once upon a time, the sage Ribhu, endowed with all good qualities, like Shama, tranquility, and others, saw on Mount Kailasa my Father, all immaculate, who sweeps away all sorrow, and, prostrating to him, began praising that Shambhu, bestower of happiness, with great humility and love, to get his lasting grace and to obtain the blissful, undivided, supreme knowledge. After praising him, Ribhu addressed the Supreme Shiva thus: "Excellent and perfect Guru, out of your compassion, be gracious enough to instruct me now in the knowledge of pure non-duality, which will lift the sense of duality that clouds my vision today, and thereby also enable all to attain their highest good." "So be it," said Shankara, the Beneficent One. Shankara spoke thus: "Sage Ribhu, offspring of Brahma, the Creator, by an inquiry into this epitome of aphoristic formulas offered by me in 4 parts, which are in the nature of explaining clearly the entire meaning of Vedanta, there will arise the fearless, undivided, supreme knowledge, which leads to the elimination of the miseries of mundane existence and to the bliss of the Supreme Brahman. With no delusions, hear this in full." So spoke the great Lord to Ribhu. As he spoke thus, Sage Ribhu, hearing the subtle meanings of the sacred formulas and reflecting on them fully and incessantly in his mind, further meditated on them, rid of worldly sorrows by the knowledge thus gained, and embracing exquisite bliss, Ribhu began praising the sacred form of Shiva with wonder and love. Glory to Shiva, the embodiment of grace that protects me. Glory to Shiva, the mass of bliss. Glory to Shiva, totally devoid of attributes. Glory to Shiva, beneficent to all. Glory to the Supreme Shiva, the spotless. Glory to the Supreme Shiva, the all-pervasive. Glory to the Supreme Shiva, the one and non-dual. Glory to the Supreme Shiva, who is omnipresent and undivided. Glory to Shiva, the cause of the entire phenomenal world. Glory to Shiva, the Lord of Ambika, the Mother. Glory to Shiva, who is all and complete. Glory to Shiva, the limbless, the partless. Glory to Shiva, who exists everywhere, undifferentiated. Glory to Shiva, who is to be comprehended through Vedanta, the final, highest knowledge. Glory to Shiva, the Lord of all the worlds. Glory to Shiva, the mass of truth, consciousness, bliss. Prostrations to your feet, Shankara, the Beneficent One, the substratum of all that is moving and unmoving, and the embodiment of truth. Prostrations to your feet, Supreme Shankara, the brilliant blaze that illumines both the higher and the lower. Prostrations to your feet, sweet blemishless form that bestows happiness upon all beings everywhere. Prostrations to your feet, to which Hari, Brahma, and millions of the divine milieu offer obeisance. I bow to your feet, which remove all the anguish of earthly existence, of your devotees, and give them happiness. I bow to your feet that give with ease the pure supreme knowledge and remove all weariness. I bow to your feet that transcend the mind and stand as the symbol of ethereal consciousness. I bow to your feet, O Guru, who clarifies all the wonderful knowledge of Vedanta. Thus praising the Supreme Shiva, and then, at his bidding, departing therefrom with humility, wandering here and there, strengthened by the unbroken, blissful experience, and, after initiating some deserving devotees on the way, he, Ribhu, reached, due to diverse circumstances, the earth, and came to the exalted, holy center of Kedara. The sages saw Ribhu, the son of Brahma, steeped in dispassion, the repository of intense devotion to and knowledge of Shiva. He was decked with all the Shaivite insignia, like vibhuti, ashes, rudraksha necklaces, and other such things. He was staying at the shrine of Kedara, atop a Himalayan peak, offering worship to that perfect, full Lord of Kedara. On seeing him, the spotless sages, such as Nidaga, Shuka, and others, lovingly, fully prostrated before him, and, praising him, addressed the worthy sage Ribhu thus: "Once upon a time, did you not duly worship with devotion the Supreme Shiva on Mount Kailasa, and obtain for the good of all, for the welfare of the world, the infinite, indivisible knowledge by the grace of that Lord of the universe? Enlightened Guru, who has attained the unwavering, undivided, supreme knowledge, in your intense compassion, be gracious enough to guide us to attain the great liberation, which will remove the debilitating miseries of worldly existence, in the way in which you attained, by the compassion of the Supreme Shiva, the undivided, supreme knowledge of the essence of the faultless formulas of the crest of the Vedas. Our guide, with the help of the boat of divine knowledge that can be obtained through your kindness, we shall cross the vile ocean of recurring births and deaths, and reach the shore of the immaculate Supreme Brahman, thus attaining eternal existence." When the sages thus supplicated with deference the spotless sage Ribhu, he, full of joy, responded, "There is no secret kept from any of you, pure elite of sages, who with your worship and devotion are all entitled to the grace of the Supreme Shiva. Is there anything, anywhere, to be kept back from the devotees of Shiva? Therefore, even today, I shall expound to you this great knowledge. Hear then, as I tell you, of the knowledge that is the essence of the aphorisms of the crest jewel of the faultless Vedas, just as it was told to me, without reserve, by the Supreme Shiva in his compassion. Spotless sages, by this knowledge all of you will ever live changelessly, free of the great distress of earthly existence and its bondages, and attain the full nature of the Supreme Brahman. Thus, generally addressing Nidaga, Shuka, and other sages, with Nidaga as the foremost, and lovingly bowing to Mahadeva, Shiva, the great god, with the three instruments of action, body, speech, and mind, the gracious great sage Ribhu began clearly imparting to them the undivided supreme knowledge of Shiva, which frees one from bondage. The spouse of Uma, the Supreme Shiva, who is the full, infinite expanse of consciousness, is both the material and instrumental cause of the creation of the earth and other worlds. The one who combines the worlds, gives them a reality and illumines them, and suffuses with joy these sapless entities, is also Shambhu, the bestower of happiness, the mass of truth, consciousness, bliss. As the Supreme Shiva, of the very nature of grace, is established as the support of all endless power, there is nothing equal or superior to that Lord, Ishvara, the cause of all the world. So, he is proclaimed as the instrumental and material cause. There is no other cause greater than that Lord, Ishvara, at any time, anywhere. May that blemishless reality, the mass of consciousness bliss, emerging as the divine, auspicious form, by its supreme power, which is filled with consciousness, given to its sports, such as the destruction of Tripuras, the three cities or triad of bodies, removing all difficulties for its devotees, and granting them beneficent enjoyment and liberation. May that reality, the Supreme Lord, protect us all by its grace forever. Defining the Self, Atma. Nidaga, you who possess all attainments, so that all may understand, I shall now briefly tell you the ascertainment of the Self, as expounded by the Supreme Ishvara, the Lord of all the world, in his intense compassion. Those who listen and learn faultlessly well this teaching that is extremely secret will forever attain the nature of the Supreme Brahman. The Self is knowledge, one and complete. It is this knowledge that remains in the practical world as the base for the body and endless conditioning factors, that is the witness of the body and all else, and that is beyond all objects of perception. Indeed, if one inquires in an unbiased manner, this Self indeed is of the nature of the indivisible Supreme Brahman. Because it is imperishable, it is the Self indeed, existing as the nature of knowledge, that is the truth. Because it illumines all, it is the Self indeed, existing as the nature of knowledge, that is consciousness. Because it is beloved by all, it is the Self indeed, existing as the nature of knowledge, that is bliss. Because it has no limitations, it is the Self indeed, existing as the nature of knowledge, that is the infinite. Brahman indeed is of the nature of the knowledge of the non-dual, It is the base of everything. It is beyond all duality, and stands forth as the one whole, eternal, attributeless, unsullied, stainless. Its nature is of non-action, ever peaceful, and the mass of truth, consciousness, bliss. It is ever the self of all. Just as the one expanse of space, being conditioned by the pot and by the outside, is considered by the world as two spaces, pot space and outside space. The one reality, which is of the nature of one knowledge, because of conditioning by unreal ignorance and others, appears in a dual aspect as self and Brahman. Just as the pot space and the outside space are one indeed, when conditionings like the pot are negated, so also, if the conditionings like nescience and others are negated, the pure self and the Supreme Brahman are one. All the aspirants for liberation should unimpededly realize the great identity of the Self and the Supreme by Vedantic inquiry, eliminating, through a process of negation, all conditionings that produce a sense of duality. As all differences are an illusory appearance on Brahman, which is not different from the self, due to conditionings of the self, like the defect of nescience, and conditionings of Brahman, like Maya, illusion, delusion. One should realize, by a process of negation, that all appearances are not a whit different from the substratum, and one should recognize the originless, endless, undivided identity of the Self and Brahman. Just as the imagined superimposition of silver on the mother of pearl is nothing apart from that mother of pearl, likewise, all this multiplicity, like movement, is but a deceptive superimposition on the self, the mass of truth, consciousness, bliss, and is nothing apart from the self. Thus discarding these superimpositions through a process of negation, one should realize the fully non-dual identity of the Self and the Supreme. Whatever seems superimposed on the Self is never different from the Self. Brahman is not different from the Self. There is no Self different from Brahman. The Self indeed is Brahman. Brahman indeed is the Self. There is not an iota of doubt concerning this. One should always realize the identity of the Self and the Supreme, that I, the Self, am Brahman. As only the self of the nature of knowledge exists, there is nothing to be referred to by the word non-self. As only the self of the nature of knowledge exists, there can be no thought of non-self. As only the self of the nature of knowledge exists, there is no world existing as non-self. Be certain that it is only the self of the nature of knowledge that exists immutably, ever, everywhere. As only the self of the nature of knowledge exists, there is no nescience or delusion separate from it. As only the self of the nature of knowledge exists, there is no sankalpa, concept, volition, or vikalpa, indecision, differentiation, separate from it. As only the self of the nature of knowledge exists, there is not a trace of any nature separate from it. Be certain that it is only the self of the nature of knowledge that exists immutably, ever, everywhere. As there is no entity like the mind and such, there is never an object of which to think. As truly there is no body and such, there is never any senility or death. As there are no limbs like hands, there is no activity like taking and giving and such. Be certain that it is only the self, eternally of the nature of knowledge, that exists changelessly. As there is no creator, Brahma, said to be the cause of the spreading universe, there are no worlds with picturesque variety. As there are no series of worlds, there is no Hari, who governs the changing universe. As there are no creations, movable or immovable, there is no Hara, the destroyer of the universe. Be certain that it is only the self, the ever-perfect fullness, that exists changelessly. As there are no alphabets beginning with A, there is no language to converse with these. As there is no honored guru, there is no enlightened disciple. As no variety of texts exist, there are no injunctions or prohibitions. Be certain that it is only the self, of the nature of undiminishing knowledge, that ever exists. As there is no individuality, duality there is none. As there is no duality, individuality there is none. As there is no afflicting fear, fearlessness there is none. As there is no compound word as fearlessness, fear there is none. As there is nothing to be categorized as good, evil there is none. As there is no evil, good there is none. Be certain that it is only the self, ever of the nature of knowledge, that ever exists. As there is no truth, untruth there is none. As there is no wavering untruth, truth there is none. As there is no purity, impurity there is none. As there is nothing to speak of as impurity, purity, there is none. As there is no pursuing misery, happiness, there is none. As there is no following happiness, misery, there is none. Be certain that it is only the self, with no trace of duality, that ever exists. As there is never you, there is also no I. As there is no I who have spoken, there is no you either. As there is no doer, action, there is none. There being no action, doer, there is none. As there is none of the nature of devotee, liberated, there is none. As there is none to be called liberated, devotee, there is none. Be certain that it is only the self, with no trace of duality, that exists changelessly. As there is nothing of the nature of birth, death there is none. As there is nothing of the nature of death, birth there is none. As there is nothing that is of the nature that is separate, there is no I. As there is nothing of the nature of I, there is nothing separate. As there is nothing of the nature of mind, delusion there is none. As there is nothing of the nature of delusion, mind there is none. Be certain that it is only the self, perfectly full, as the mass of knowledge that exists changelessly. As there is nothing of the nature of end, beginning, there is none. As there is nothing of the nature of beginning, end, there is none. As there is nothing of the nature of the pairs of opposites, objects of perception, there are none. As there is nothing of the nature of objects of perception, opposing pairs, there are none. As there is nothing of the nature of bondage, liberation, there is none. As there is nothing of the nature of liberation, bondage, there is none. Be certain that it is only the self, ever of the nature of consciousness, that exists changelessly. As there is nothing that can be spoken of as the effect, there is no cause that can be ascribed. As there exists nothing manifest as the seen, there is no seer to see. As there is no variety of duality of any kind, there is no changeless non-duality. Be certain that it is only the self, the all-complete, that is imperishable. As there is no object that is internal, there is no object to be spoken of as external. As there is nothing that is to be called all, there is nothing to be described as a little part. As there is nothing that is not vibrant, there is nothing that is static. Be certain that it is only the self, the all-pervasive mass of consciousness, that is without any defect. There is nothing to be pointed out as this or that, and nothing to be described as non-existent or existent. There is nothing that proves itself permanent. There are no examples or similes. There are no entities that manifest themselves in their manifoldness. There are no such things as the wondrous world, jivas, individuals, and the Supreme. All this is ever the undivided Supreme Brahman. It is the unsullied Supreme Brahman, indeed, that is the Self. What appears as all is only Brahman. What appears as you is only Brahman. What appears as me is only Brahman. What appears as others is only Brahman. What appears faulty as the world is only Brahman. What appears as the Lord, Ishvara, is only Brahman. Appearances of all kinds are only Brahman. It is the undivided Supreme Brahman, that is the Self. The nature of the Self is a mass of truth, consciousness, bliss. The nature of the Self is a complete, full perfection, all. The nature of the Self is the eternal and the attributeless. The nature of the Self is partless and untainted. The nature of the Self is the pure space of consciousness. The nature of the Self is the subtlest of the subtle. The nature of the Self is the non-dual reality. The nature of the Self is one undivided essence. Therefore, there is not an atom separate from the Self, the one undivided essence. You are that Self which is a mass of knowledge. There is not an iota of doubt in this declaration. Sage of supreme tapas, you will be liberated from the bondage of worldly misery by reaching the differenceless, undivided certitude of the Self, that I, the Self, am ever of the nature of the exalted Supreme Brahman. Thus, for the good of all, have I briefly described to you, Nadaga, the definition of the non-dual, indivisible Self, in the way in which the Lord, Ishvara, whose greatness has no end, earlier graced me with this knowledge. Those who listen carefully and steadfastly learn, at least once, with a pure heart, this ascertainment of the Self, will attain the state of the perfectly full Supreme Brahman. One's own experience. Thus spoke the sage Ribhu. Joyously addressing him, Nadaga sincerely requested, "My true Guru, please rid me of all mundane miseries by graciously telling me now the wonderful, personal, beatific experience that you had at that time on Mount Kailasa by the grace of Shiva." The sage answered him thus, "I am indeed Brahman, of the nature of truth, knowledge, bliss. I am indeed Brahman, without any connection to samsara. I am indeed Brahman, which is eternal and partless. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, without form. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, which is the essential and the exclusive. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which stands by itself. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is non-dual. I am indeed Brahman, which is the whole, perfectly full and undivided. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, which stands as the nature of truth. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, which is ever in bliss. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, which is of the nature of consciousness. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, which is the space of consciousness. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, which is blemishless. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, which is untainted. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, which is of the nature of myself. I am indeed the one perfectly full Brahman. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman with no caste or clan. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, which has discarded all associations. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, without beginning or end. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, which has discarded all that is meaningless. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, without sorrow. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, which is magnificent. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, devoid of differences. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, devoid of attachments. I am indeed Brahman, which cannot be indicated as this. I am indeed Brahman, which cannot be indicated as I. I am indeed Brahman, which cannot be pointed to as that. I am indeed Brahman, which has nothing separate from itself. I am indeed Brahman, which cannot be said to be rooted in anything. I am indeed Brahman, which has no objects to see. I am indeed Brahman, which is of the same nature all of the time. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which stands immovable. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is absolutely eternal. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is absolutely pure. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is absolute knowledge. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is absolute liberation. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is absolutely blemishless. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is absolutely without connections. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is absolutely without movement. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is absolutely divisionless. I am indeed Brahman, which is the mass of absolute truth. I am indeed Brahman, which is the mass of absolute consciousness. I am indeed Brahman, which is the mass of absolute bliss. I am indeed Brahman, which is absolutely subtle. I am indeed Brahman, which is absolutely pure. I am indeed Brahman, which is absolute auspiciousness. I am indeed Brahman, which is absolutely eternal. I am indeed Brahman, which is absolute peace. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is exclusively of the nature of existence. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is exclusively of the nature of consciousness. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is exclusively of the nature of the good. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is exclusively of the nature of sound. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is exclusively of the nature of space. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is exclusively of the nature of that which alone is. I am indeed Brahman, which alone is of this exclusive nature. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is simple magnificence. I am indeed Brahman, which does not change into parts. I am indeed Brahman, which transcends all fragmentation. I am indeed Brahman, which has not a speck of a mind. I am indeed Brahman, which has no sankalpa, concept, or vikalpa, doubt, differentiation. I am indeed Brahman, without manifold names. I am indeed Brahman, without any diversified forms. I am indeed the immaculate Supreme Brahman, untouched by an ego. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is the undivided space of consciousness. I am indeed Brahman, which is all and complete. I am indeed Brahman, which has no conditionings like a body. I am indeed Brahman, which is all-pervasive and without any parts. I am indeed Brahman, which is a mass of knowledge. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is the substratum of all. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which manifests as all. I am indeed Brahman, which is without any distinguishing characteristics. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is undivided and devoid of all. I am indeed Brahman, without any differentiation as beings. I am indeed Brahman, without any differentiation such as multiplicity. I am indeed Brahman, without any differentiation or effect. I am indeed Brahman, without any differentiation such as all. I am indeed Brahman, without any differentiation such as the Vedas. I am indeed Brahman, without any differentiation, such as Brahma, the Creator, and others. I am indeed Brahman, with no differentiation. I am indeed ever the one Supreme Brahman. I am indeed Brahman, which is of the nature of formless knowledge. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is woven into everything. I am indeed Brahman, which is of the nature of knowledge without delusion. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, devoid of liberation or its opposite. I am indeed Brahman, of the nature of undivided knowledge. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, without limitations. I am indeed Brahman, of the nature of knowledge without sorrow. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is self-luminous. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which stands taintless. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is actionless. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, of one nature. I am indeed Brahman, beyond comprehension through anything. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is one without a second. I am indeed the Brahman, which exists always and everywhere. I am indeed Brahman, which is fully all-pervasive. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is all truth. I am indeed Brahman, which is ever changeless. I am indeed Brahman, which has no trace of doubt. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, which is endless and infinite. I am indeed Brahman, without a trace of ego. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, which is pure and without connections. I am indeed Brahman, which is without a trace of happiness or unhappiness. I am indeed Brahman, which is transcendent and beyond attachments. I am indeed Brahman, which has no trace of worldly bondage. I am indeed Brahman, which does not have the pentad of gods such as Brahma and others. I am indeed Brahman, without the pentad of functions. I am indeed Brahman, not touched in the least by delusion. I am indeed Brahman, which is blemishless and exalted. I am indeed Brahman, which glows as the self-luminous. I am indeed Brahman, which is the pure space of consciousness. I am indeed Brahman, which has no connection to action. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is only consciousness. I am indeed Brahman, without the taint of ignorance. I am indeed Brahman, which has no actions of that ignorance. I am indeed Brahman, without the 5 types of sheaths. I am indeed Brahman, which has nothing as the higher or the lower. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, with nothing of even the trivial, and which is alone. I am indeed Brahman, which has no need for any deed. I am indeed Brahman, no different from knowledge. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is pure and which is the void. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is the root of the universe. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, which transcends everything. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, which pervades everywhere. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, which is ever immaculate. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, which is the essence of all. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which is all sentience. I am indeed the Supreme Brahman, which has absolute freedom. I am indeed Supreme Brahman, which is truth, knowledge, bliss. I am never the body or the senses. I am never living beings or the thoughts. I am never the intelligence or the mind. I am never the petty ego. I am never its cause, ignorance. I am never the integral or the discrete. I am never anything possessed of intelligence. I am always the undivided Supreme Brahman indeed. I am never the mortal. I am never the child, the youth, or the aged. I am never the small or the big. I am never the one to decay and die. I am never the individual soul, Jiva, or the Lord, Ishvara. I am never the sentient and insentient world. I am ever the I, which stands devoid of anything. I am the Supreme Brahman, the non-dual and the divisionless. I am ever of the nature of Brahman, which is truth. I am ever of the nature of Brahman, which is consciousness. I am ever of the nature of Brahman, which is all good. I am ever of the nature of Brahman, which is that. I am ever of the nature of Brahman, which is pure. I am ever of the nature of Brahman, which is attributeless. I am ever of the nature of Brahman, which is motionless. I am ever of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is indivisible. O sage, what avails the description thereof in diverse ways? I am Brahman, Brahman is I, and I am all. This undivided, supreme certitude, thus strengthened, is the permanent experience I have gained by the grace of the Supreme Shiva. There is no doubt about this pure, noble self. This is the truth I say in the name of Shiva. Those who listen to this fitting exposition even once with attention and realize it will become the Supreme. The non-dual Supreme Shiva, limitless and without the least division, stands as the great truth which the Vedantas fearlessly proclaim. Inane imbeciles with impure minds, distracted toward differentiation by text on duality, can never know the one undivided Supreme Shiva, the essence of the cream of the Vedic lore. Courageous men performing daily worship with devotion and offerings to Shiva, and attaining purity of mind, will get the steadfast, indivisible Shiva knowledge that the non-dual Supreme Shiva is the substance of the Vedas and all else, and that, truly, Shiva is themselves. Rid of illusory, worldly bondage, they will become the Supreme Shiva themselves, consciousness, bliss. Sutta thus told all the great sages that Skanda, the all-knowing, gave this clear exposition to Jageshavya, the eager inquirer, delineating what, on the lines of the gracious teaching of the Supreme Shiva, the sage Ribhu, in his compassion, described in Nidaga as his personal experience in an exalted state of non-dual, undivided awareness of the Self. It is the limitless form of the God of gods in a state of joyous dance that discloses the definition of the all-embracing, perfectly full, and undivided nature of the Self. And depicts the awareness of the peerless Supreme, which exists as truth, consciousness, bliss. This being the I, which is the Self, which is the Supreme.